is Super Robinson Bros, the podcast companion to our game review webcomic. I'm Nick.
And I'm Nate.
And we're real-life brothers who play a different game every month, and then we review it as a webcomic on superrobinsonbros.com. And we're here to talk about Hades.
Hades.
It's a game. We played it. We played a lot of it. And this game was really something. It was really something. Mate.
Wow.
Anyway, if you haven't heard about this game, you've been stuck underneath a rock. This is a game from Supergiant. We played another Supergiant game not too long ago called Pyre.
That's right.
But
yeah.
Nate, this one's different.
It is different. It is a different game. You are correct.
Nailed it.
So Supergiant, I don't know. I played, I think, every game that Supergiant's put out. I think you've played a number of them too. I've really enjoyed them quite a bit, but I haven't really I think Bastion was the one I enjoyed the most. Pyre was interesting, and Transistor I love the look and sound of, right. But it didn't quite resonate with me fully. Hades, I thought would be kind of in that same vein, and I thought people had been talking about this game. It's a roguelike. It's kind of this isometric top-down quarter view. It's like hand-drawn art, and it's an action roguelike.
Sounds like a lot of those Supergiant games you just described.
Right, yeah. So it shares that same viewpoint as like Bastion or Transistor. Transistor for sure. And yeah, you're right. You're totally right. It has a lot of the same like art and audio stylings, but it's a roguelike. And so like obviously my ears perk up when I hear that. I'm excited. I like roguelikes. Nick, not as much so often. But our Discord community was talking about this game, and so we put it up for our patron pick vote, and sure enough, this thing took it home pretty easily. But I'll say, Nick, when we started this, I didn't know what to expect. I thought it would just be kind of another run-of-the-mill roguelike with a beautiful art style and kind of the standard Supergiant polish, which that's going to be good. But I didn't quite expect what exactly we got here. And to me, I think the thing I want to start with this game is that this is a roguelike that tells a story. That I think it does something I've never seen a roguelike do, which is have interesting characters, have an arc, and have a narrative that ties into the gameplay. So you play as Zagreus, who's
Zag.
So Nick, those of you guys might not know this. Nick,
he's cool.
Nick went to Gonzaga, and so there's the Zags, and I'm sure this is why Nick's so excited to talk about this.
That's what this thing's based on. Yeah, a lot to do.
Yeah, a lot to do. You play as Zagreus, the son of Hades. You're trying to escape Hades. You're just this, you're kind of an emo teen, dealing with your stuff. You want to get out. You want to run away from home. And
is that guy supposed to be a teenager? Really?
I think I don't know, but he, you basically
he's a bit of an emo team in his like 40s.
Running your way of sticking it to your old man is to run through the different realms of hell, and
it's true. Run away from home.
Basically, run away from home, and you're doing that with the help of all these Greek gods and all off of Olympus, and they're powering you up, and you're pulling, getting different upgrades. But there is there's just so much to talk about this game. But I think
that is the whole premise, though. You just summed it up, really. Like, that is the thing you do over and over and over again.
And it's structured in the way of like a lot of these roguelikes where, every you clear a room, you go on to the next one, you get an upgrade, you clear, and you just like repeat until you get stronger. And then eventually, you run into bosses and whatnot.
I thought you were going to say, and then eventually you die, because that's usually the formula for when I play.
So, okay, I want to get into the gameplay for sure, but I think I really want to start with the narrative stuff, because I feel like it really
unexpected.
Because I went into this game thinking about I had played Dead Cells recently. I played like when the comic was kind of dormant. I played Dead Cells for a bit, and people talked a lot about that game and were really excited about it, and thought it was a really good roguelike. And it was, but it also like was a pretty straightforward game. Like I kind of got in, got out, beat it, and walked away. It didn't really stick with me.
Wow, look at that humble brag right there. Yeah, I just kind of like gave it a shot, whatever. Totally just
one tried it, one lifed it. Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah. They said it was a roguelike. Couldn't tell because I never saw it more than once.
No,
I'm out.
nothing. I got in, got out, and just it didn't really stick with me. I thought it was fine. It was
Yeah.
great. It was polished. But
Okay,
I
okay.
couldn't tell you with almost a thing about it this day. Whereas this game, like instantly you're presented with these characters and dialogue. There's just so much writing in this game
Yeah.
that really creates
Yeah.
a sense of who these characters are. The voice acting is great, and
I was not expecting that.
no, when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, that's a super giant polish. Like that's what they're going to do. They've always done that.
True.
But I've just the context of a roguelike. Roguelikes are not a genre that has a narrative. It's always
Yeah,
just
it
like
was.
the narrative is always just something that happens as like through it's your story of going
Right.
through it. Like I think of
Right,
things
right.
like Rogue Legacy, where like the story is basically your lives and the characters and their random attributes, and like you look back and you kind of see what happened in each run. But I don't know. Can you think of like a roguelike that has
Right.
anything like approaching this narrative?
No, and I think you're right that like this thing did have all the sort of tropes or like common elements, I guess, now that a Supergiant game has, and so there is something to be expected there. But to be honest, like this thing, it wasn't really on my radar until it was released. I know it was in early access for a while, and we also should mention, by the way, that this thing is on PC and Switch, but it's and apparently Mac, which interesting pick of platforms, but it's not on PlayStation or Xbox. I'm sure it will be given the success that this thing's seen.
Oh yeah.
But it kind of came out of nowhere for me, and when I heard that it was a new Supergiant game and that it was a roguelike, it was really surprising. But it really does feel like it's sort of, for whatever reason, like all the stars aligned, and it's like all the boxes that those guys check just worked perfectly for this title, this game.
Yeah.
But hearing you talk so much about the about the story makes me feel a little bit bad, a little queasy almost, because I kind of got to a point where I was just like mashing through the dialogue, just like, okay, next, let's go.
Oh really? Huh.
So I think maybe it hit you more than me. I appreciated that there was something there, and that there was like some interesting dynamic as you were walking through it.
Yes. Yeah.
Mostly when you got those drops, right? Like every time, like Nate kind of mentioned that you'd as you like pick up these things, you'd get these like
you get
visitors.
upgrades. Yeah.
Yeah, and like they'd have like a little quippy saying with them, and just like, oh, you're trying to escape, and here's a little bit of backstory, or here's like a little bit about our relationship, and it was kind of cool. But beyond that, I didn't really feel like beyond that, and just the general premise of like I'm trying to escape, I didn't feel like there was much there that was that interesting. I certainly didn't want to replay just to hear more about what's going on.
Well, I can't believe that. I can't. It's so crazy to me. Like the basic story, I suppose, isn't anything that's like mind blowing, but it's the voice for every character. It's the amount of writing, the amount of awareness about the things that are going on in your run. It's like, oh, you're using this spear. That part was
impressive.
And that's cool. I have this history with the spear. Oh, and you got this upgrade? Okay, I'm going to talk to you about, like, oh, that's a hilarious upgrade I've gotten or whatever. You talk to this god
They spanned the runs too. They comment on how you died in the last one, or how far you got, or like, oh, this is the second or third time or whatever that you've done this.
It really made it.
Yeah, the amount of content in there is impressive.
It's not even just the amount, which is definitely impressive. Because I play this game now for like 70, 80 hours, and like I still am running into new dialogue all the time. I don't even know if I've seen the end for anybody. But like it's the characters, like the voices and the characters, specifically like the character's voice. That I mean, like the way that each one is definitely different than the other.
It's really polished. Like those things just kind of fit really beautifully.
It just made running, like getting your upgrade was the same as talking to a new friend, and like, oh, cool, okay, what's he got this time? Oh, okay, little conversation with them. But I think the thing that really got me, and I don't know how much of this you got, given that you had some problems with you ran into a difficulty curve, I suppose, with the game.
Whoa! I did not mention that.
Okay.
Whoa!
Well, just that there's the loop, the loop of the game was it's like in a normal roguelike, right? Like you have your run, you succeed or you don't, you get more powerful within that run, and then maybe you get like a little more powerful like before the next run, and then you go back in again. And this game has that. Like you definitely have the same mechanics, but every time you die and you start over again, One, it's like super thematic because you're showing back up in hell.
It's cool.
Having died, and like your dad's there just kind of mocking you.
Well, and you're coming out of like a pool of blood.
Coming out of the pool of sticks. Yeah,
I mean, that is cool.
And all these characters are populating this area, this house, the House of Hades, and like you can talk with them, you can start building relationships with them. Some of the times like Nick's they're talking about the last run you had, like the bosses you fight end up showing up in the house, and you like just kind of trade barbs with them. I just like it was just wanting to do a run. Obviously that was the fun part, playing the gameplay, and then going back and like upgrading my character, but also checking in with those characters and hearing what their reactions to my last run, and then unlocking new stuff to go try in the new mission. It was just in most roguelikes, I always feel like it kind of stumbles in some area, and you kind of have to like pick yourself up and push yourself towards this next thing. This game was just like some constant stream. I just never felt like I was. The narrative pulled me, like the characters in the narrative pulled me through every little bit of that loop. I felt.
So did it get you like wanting to do another run faster or something like that?
100%. Yeah.
Because I feel like most roguelikes feel like they're some of the issues I have with a lot of games like that where they're all about mechanics, or like it's about this kind of like quick twitch, like go do this thing, go do that thing. It's more mostly like you're either in the game itself or you're essentially in a menu system, whereas this thing, it totally had like this other half of it. And even though it was, not really hiding the fact that like, oh, there's like an environment that essentially acts as the menu system, right? So if I want to go over here, I go to upgrades on this like funky mirror thing,
right?
Or I want to go over here and I'm sort of like upgrading this house, which also, I'm managing my inventory, my weapons, etc.
Right.
It does it all within this like premise, like Nate talks about here about the House of Hades. So it kind of like you're interacting it in a fun way, but it doesn't feel like it's kind of cheesy or like contrived, because there are also these active characters all walking around. It always reminded me of like if you're a fan of Miyazaki, the Spirited Away. It always felt like that big bathhouse.
Yeah,
it's kind of this quirky place where all these weird folks are coming together, and it had just like a really cool energy. And I always wondered like, hey, are these people like real people in here? Like, can they kind of like Journey or something, where it's like they're not part of my gameplay, but they're actually playing the game.
The shades, like the souls coming through. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I thought that would be really great if they did that, but I don't think that is.
But it just has that cool energy, and I thought that was certainly a cool thing. But the gameplay was so polished that I actually did also feel like as much as I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool in here. I actually just want to get right back to the game because
100%. We haven't even talked about the gameplay yet, and it's super polished. Like, last thing I'll say about the narrative, because there's so much to talk about the narrative and the story, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but that there is a in-game like reason for the loop you're going through. That is definitely talked about from the beginning, but even better as you like beat the game, it gets even better, where it like hooks you to try to want to go back through again and again and again. And I just cannot. This is like one of the best game stories of the year for me, and I cannot believe I'm saying that for a roguelike. Certainly some of the best characters. So, anyways, I could talk.
So you feel like it was a good arc overall?
Oh,
you feel like
100%.
It has a very good.
And there's so many arcs for so many different characters. Like, it is such a great example of character writing in a game. I really can't speak highly enough about it. Yeah. Anyways, I don't want to belabor this point. Let's talk about the gameplay. So you like the gameplay? I'm kind of surprised because this is not your kind of game. I don't think about like action games are not your games. Certainly, action roguelikes. That's two strikes against it.
Well, yeah, and something that has like a set of weapons and equipable things and powers and all that kind of stuff. But one thing I really appreciate about this is exactly the gameplay itself. It did such a good job of not forcing you to have to mess with that stuff. Like, you could go deeper if you wanted to. You could really, have your cheat sheet pad of paper right next to you if you wanted to be like, oh, okay, well, I got this, which means now I need to be on the lookout for this kind of thing, or I need to start playing this way or do this and that. But you could also very easily, not necessarily button mash, because there's quite a bit of strategy still involved.
Oh,
but,
big time.
You could just kind of play it more arcade-like. And I'm much more kind of casual as I approach a lot of these games. And I feel like this allowed me to do it in a way that was so mechanically sound that I didn't really have, many frustrations. Like, I could feel like I was progressing and doing pretty well. Other times I, feel like I hit a brick wall and like, man, that was a really tough enemy. But it was still pretty fun the whole way through. So yeah, I was really impressed by it. I thought it was super super polished.
Yeah, I thought it was extremely tight. I thought originally when we started playing, I thought you might get lost with how small some of the characters are and how much hand-drawn art there is, but it's really it's really clean. And
especially if you're looking at it in like a high resolution screen,
100%.
It is good looking.
And then the controls feel really tight. The feedback, like the feel of hitting something, feels really good. And you were talking about like the inventory and the upgrades and stuff, and that like how that stacks on top of each upgrade. It's not like an RPG. It's not like you're sitting here managing your inventory. There's like two things you can have equipped basically at every run. It's like what weapon do you want to pick? Right. Number one, and then what and
there aren't that many.
There aren't that many. Like and they unlock pretty slowly initially. And then there's like, what item do you want to have? And so then the only question is, over the course of your run, is like, okay, every time you get an upgrade, you're presented with a couple of options, which I thought was really interesting. Like, I don't think I've seen that in too many roguelikes. Usually it's like you get what you get, and it's just randomly drawn. And this is okay. Well, it's random, but also even within that randomness, there were tiers of loot almost, where it was like, you're getting this you're going to get this upgrade from this Olympic god. You're going to go to get a Poseidon upgrade, but you're going and within that you're going to get an option for 3 upgrades, and each one of those may be like a legendary or maybe common, whatever. And so there's like, you can have choice about how you build your character, where I feel like so many times in roguelikes you don't get that option. You just get like, well, I got random luck of the draw of this boon or this upgrade, and maybe that'll play nice with the other thing. And this time you can be intentional about how you upgrade. Right. So you might get something that says,
I also have to say on that screen, like, one thing that I often will like roll my eyes when it's like, choose this, which then unlocks this skill tree and then does this thing. And they did a really good job of just explaining it really in like layman's terms.
Yes.
Like, this is for your cast ability. That's the one with the Y button. Oh, okay, great, I got it. Like, that's the one that would be helpful actually, based on this other thing that I have going on. That it kind of just kept you going, because I feel like there's so many times when that can just kind of slow you down, and you don't want to just keep moving.
Absolutely.
And so they did a really good job of doing that. Honestly, with that explainer text in the thing, which I was actually really surprised with, because in some of their previous games, I've been really disappointed, honestly, with the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like, I need a Bible here, or encyclopedia to reference here. Which, by the way, they did have.
They do have a Bible.
That if you're into that kind of thing, it's like press left bumper to check out the
read more about Poseidon
on this enemy that you just encountered. Like, I never press that button, but it's cool that you can.
Oh man, I was reading a lot of those things. I thought, because they're written with the character's in-game voice too.
Cool.
I just, the writing was a headshot for me, but yeah, I wondered about you, because it's not a lot of the upgrades get into like specific numbers and percentages, and like I wondered how much that was going to worry you, because as soon as you see numbers, you flip out and you want your money back. But like it does a good job, like you're saying, of like laying out what the impact of these things.
It's like very streamlined.
Yeah. And you don't have to. You're not having to break out the calculator at any point in time. It's just like,
you don't have to compare it to. You don't have to compare it to other things you have equipped. No. Really, it's just like, it just really breaks it down. Like, hey, look, both of these things are going to help you. Do you kind of want to do a little bit more of this or a little bit more of that? And like, you could often choose which door you're going going.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Which also added yet another element where it's just a little bit of like agency, but not much.
Right. You're still
that I thought was kind of cool.
There's a lot of randomness in there, but you have a way to like chart your own course through it and take risks, like take educated gambles on stuff. So it's like, you already have enough health. Maybe you don't need to go open, if you have the choice, don't open more health doors, that kind of stuff. Or you want, you're looking, like, eventually you're like, I need to get something for my call ability. I don't have a call yet, so I need to go look for, the right god that has a call that matches my build. We're kind of going off into this talk about like the upgrades instead of the gameplay, but like, it is rambling, but like, all these parts just fit together so well in this game. The gameplay feels strong, the narrative's good, the upgrades are fun and exciting. Like, I definitely, like, we had a lot of interesting conversations on our Discord channel rather, about who's like, which gods we favored over others because of like what their abilities were. I felt like I played this game a lot. I played through I don't know, 50 runs or more. I think I'm up to 70, 80 runs now. The point is like, every time I did a run, I feel like there was a viable build I could try a different option. And it's like this time I'm going to be really heavy on knockback, or next time I'll be heavy on lightning damage. And like I was always amazed that every time you would do that, you would get to a point where you realize like, oh, there's actually like there's a legitimate option here. Number one, this play style is cool, and I think this game does a great job.
Something new.
Totally. And there are interesting variations on like the power ups. They really have a bunch of different flavors.
Not to mention that, but visually, I thought they did a really good job of distinguishing one another. Like all the effects that they put on this stuff, they all feel different. Like it kind of gives you a different feeling as the player. Like like I said, I overuse the word probably, but it really just felt really tight and polished. Like they considered every permutation.
I agree. You definitely get a feel for each of the gods' different types of boons, and start recognizing which ones fit your play style.
True. One thing we haven't really talked much about though, that I think is actually like, it feels like you sort of get a god early and then sort of commit or like feel that out and maybe start going down that tree sort of. But like one of the things that even before that's even more important, I would say.
Yes, let's talk about this.
There's just a couple weapons.
Yep.
But they are significantly different from one another.
Very much so.
And so it's even just kind of fun to kind of poke through, do a run with this one, do a run with that one, until you sort of find your play style. But one of the things I was surprised by, so like once I found the bow, I was like, this is great. This is me. This is wonderful.
I could sit in the corner and do nothing.
In Discord, that a lot of folks were like switching it up. They're like, oh, I'll do a couple runs with the sword, one with the shield, and then maybe I'll try the bow. I like that. That's pretty unique, and I think for a roguelike that you're like, it's that different. Then you stack these things on top. Like there's just a lot of different variation.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like in a lot of these roguelikes they throw a million weapons at you or something like that, and there's just like a handful that are good. In this game, there's a handful of weapons, and all of them are incredible and very different. But you're totally right. Like you definitely find one that kind of matches your initial play style and lets you kind of get comfortable. So for you, it was the bow. For me, it was the fists and the spear. Eventually, like the spear, you just like you can get some distance. You can start to learn some guys' patterns and whatnot. But yeah, like they all have very different play styles. And what I think is cool is that the game incentivizes you to switch it up. Like there's a little bit of a bonus to try a different weapon every time you start, just to kind of like force you to experiment with different weapons. And like I hated the shield, man. I hated the shield.
Oh, it was cool.
And now my shield, now the shield's like the one that I've cleaned. I've finished the game quickest. It's just like trying to figure out once you beat it too. It's like you want to go back, and there's incentives in the game to go and like finish the game with different weapons at different times. And so like that's cool. Learn. It almost becomes a different game every time you try a different weapon or you try a different god and really commit to that. Those boons. Yeah. It feels like an entirely new game that you have to learn and challenge yourself again to. So I'd be really curious, like after if you could get to a point where you could beat it with the bow, what like now would you might sit there and just master the bow, or would you go on to something else?
Right.
So I think that's a great shout out. And you again after you beat the game, more stuff opens up, and there's still more ways where you can get different flavors of these weapons that actually drastically change them. New challenges show up that give you bigger rewards. So it's like even when you beat it, the game keeps throwing new things at you.
Just never stop playing this game.
No, I mean honestly, like until you run out of narrative or until you run out of challenges and gameplay flavors, like. I mean, that's what's kept. There's a couple of us still playing it on the Discord channel, even though we're now out of the month, and it's just because we want to like see everything in this game and kind of bring every drop of value.
They're giving you so much interesting content. I mean, it's great. I remember when we were doing Spelunky a while back, and like those daily challenges would start to be the flavor du jour. But this game definitely has the makings of something that can live for quite some time. I have to say too that. One of the things that so I didn't beat it.
How far did you? I am curious how far you got. I don't know, like without spoiling too much.
And I should mention too, we haven't even talked about the enemies. We haven't talked about the environments.
No,
both of which were awesome and quite varied. I got to the third area, like the third. I don't know.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Third area.
Sure. World. And I honestly, and I feel like. I feel this way often, where I'll just sort of snack on a game and hop out. I think this is one where, if you really commit to it, I could probably do it eventually. But one of the things I loved about it is that they had this God mode that didn't feel like it was some sort of like, I feel like it's poorly named because I found out about this kind of late, but it's a setting that you could do that basically every time you die, it kicks back a little bit of damage resistance.
Right.
So that like each time you're actually getting better, and then you're also getting a bit stronger. You could turn this thing off at any point. But I feel like it's like kind of some training wheels. Yeah. I wish I had known from the very get-go, and I probably would have just started like that because I feel like I probably feel like I got it by the end of it.
Yeah.
But I just appreciate that that's there, because so often my criticisms with these games is that you're just hitting this rock, and it's fun to play. You're just but it's like I'm not really progressing. I don't feel like I'm getting any better, and especially with a roguelike. Something random comes out of nowhere and boom, well, that sucks. I just, invested this much time in it. And I have to say, like, sometimes these are like long runs. Like they last for quite some time.
They can. I mean, I didn't, you can, it was nice that you could like stop and quit at any point and come back and resume your run. Like you could save it basically at every room. So you didn't have to like,
oh, I did not know that.
You didn't know that? Yeah. You basically saves every room. So you can just, if you're not, you gotta go eat dinner or something like that, you can come right back.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I mean, like I think
that.
Runs were generally like 30 to even when I don't know.
Oh,
when you start when you start up, it's probably a lot longer because you're like slow going through the game. But eventually, like I was, you get like 30 minutes per run. It's not a
wow.
But then you spend like 20 minutes. It feels like upgrading and talking to characters out of the run, and I think they stopped that timer when you're talking to people during it too. So it doesn't include all of the decisions you're making in the menus and all of the. Anyways, yeah, I that mode was really interesting to me. I'm glad you used it. I wish you had started it earlier. Training wheels is a great way to put it. It reminded me of Celeste. Remember how Celeste had that like all the options to like disable damage and stuff? Because it's like it stinks because like you should be able to experience this story. And the characters. Like if you really enjoy them and you want to see them through, like you'll get better even if you keep dying and dying and dying without the God mode, because you'll be able to make the upgrades between runs. But it's a frustrating experience, and like you want to have fun with the game. So like if you turn on God mode, I would say Nick, I would say you should over the holiday break here, you should go back and try some more at it and just poke at it, see if you can beat it once, because I feel like this is a game you got to beat once to kind of see what they're doing.
Depends on how close I am.
What they're doing with the narrative at the end of that. But yeah.
I do like that it at least rewards you. Like it kind of forces you to at least try. Whereas, Celeste gave you quite a few knobs and dials, but a lot of these, it's either like, well, you're either playing this thing for real or we're going to put it on some serious
baby mode or something.
Yeah, exactly. Baby mode. But I like that it at least pushes you to do it a bit. And like I said, I like that they have sort of pushed a lot of the complexity just to the side to where you can take it if you want it, or you could just leave it and just kind of try to power through this thing. I mean, maybe you have to take it to win, but I felt like it feels like I got pretty far.
Yeah,
but
you did. I think
cool.
There are phases with this game. Like any game that like lives on your shelf for a long time, there are phases, right? Like there's like I'm learning it, I'm kind of cresting that hill, and now I'm mastering, and now I'm like going off and either fulfilling late game challenges or I'm making my own challenges. And this game has all of that. And where you are right now, you're just on that initial ramp. The game, like in my opinion, I think the game doesn't really start until you beat it the first time. Like once you beat it the first time, I think the narrative kind of completes in a way that really is interesting. That's cool. And that's completes the circle. And then and really like kind of blew my mind because it was like they had written a narrative for a roguelike that worked for the structure of a roguelike,
and then kept going. And
then also now you need to learn to master those other weapons. You need to go back and wrap up the story loose ends that are not like, and there's a lot of them that keep evolving. And like now there's new challenges that are unlocked to you, and I hope that you at least get to see that. I hope you at least get to the point where you can see, like, make a decision whether you want to chase that down. Yeah, like, but it's cool because I was where we were, where it was like it took me, dozens of runs before I beat it the first time, and now, like, it's a different. Now like I'm in the phase where it's like and this is true for, it's not just, I'm not, this is like me and a couple other people on this Discord channel now, like, we're just clearing it on the regular. Like it's weird when we don't beat the game. I mean, part of that is like we've picked up a lot of upgrades. We've figured out a lot of the patterns of enemies. We've figured out what upgrades we want.
Right.
But it's like a completely different challenge. Anyways, I just hope you.
Totally.
I know I'm rambling. I know I'm coming off as
totally.
Like
Yeah,
overly,
I've stopped listening.
overly complimentary here, but I really okay. We can start talking about what we would rate this game.
Well, I was gonna say clearly this one is your favorite Supergiant game.
100, easily. Like I think it does the best things of Bastion with the best things of like their best presented games.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And I think on our video I was giving this thing a little bit of a hard time because of the just the art. I mean, I guess it's like the Supergiant formula now, where it's like the same art style, the same music style, blah blah blah. But like we've talked about it, it really sort of it's like a perfectly aligned thing right on this one. Even the music it's pretty terrible music. But for the most part,
I don't think it's
especially when it really gets wailing. But it fits. It fits really well.
I was gonna say it fits the
voices
world,
at
but
first
it's not.
were kind of like, whoa, that's abrasive, and it doesn't. Does that really match the drawings? But it does. It does. It doesn't take very long for you to realize that this is just a really nicely built package. So, I mean, is there any? I'll just ask it this way: is there any reason this game is not a 5 in your boat?
No,
your book here?
No. I mean, this might end up being my game of the year. Easily, really. I can't think of too much else I played this year that both surprised me and hooked me as much as this one did.
It really surprised me. This was not at all. I was coming in this thing expecting to really dislike it.
Really,
and honestly, like the things we've talked about most of them, but all the things where I'm like, I wish they had done blank, because that would not sort of turn me off as the more casual player, or like they did it all. I got no real qualms with this game. It's good. It's really good.
That's impressive. Yeah,
it's really solid.
I think it innovates in some really interesting ways. Like you just said, it's a hell of a package in terms of visuals and audios. Even though if we don't both love the music, like I definitely have songs from other Supergiant games that I like have on playlists that I listen to. I don't think that's going to be the case for this one.
That's super cool. Yeah,
it's not. I don't know why you're mocking that. They're good music.
I'm just kidding.
That's good music.
There's that one cue at the very beginning. Every time you drop in, as you leave your bedroom or whatever. That is really good. It's almost like Pavlovian. It gets you like, okay, yeah, this is going.
Okay.
But then as it ratchets up, sometimes I start ratcheting down that volume. Like,
I think
boy, come on,
that's interesting.
Guys.
I think I hadn't separated like this. Like there's characters in the games that have like they're Orpheus, right? Like he's a full on singer, and you run into people like there's songs in the game. Yeah, those did not connect with me at all. But the background music, like the riffs that happen, those I think are strong. And
during the battles, the boss battle riffs in particular
didn't work for you.
Anyway, but the thing is, it worked. It totally worked. It matches. Like there's some stuff in here.
Agreed.
Like we haven't talked about the environments are so well done, beautiful.
Yeah.
So varied and different. Everything's very active and kind of alive. Like you can't really stop and stare at anything for more than half a second, but because you'll die. But you kind of want to. Like every screen is really nicely done.
It's a gorgeous game. All the characters are super memorable. Like the writing made me laugh out loud innumerable times. The mental challenge of trying to figure out how my run was going to work this time, how to salvage what felt like a bad build, or how to build on top of a thing that was working really well. I cannot speak highly enough about this game. It really
okay. If I'm going to knock it for one thing,
sure.
Well, it's not. No, I wouldn't even. I was going to say the enemies. Some of the enemies were just a little cheesy. But I like that there were a lot of different kinds, and after I'd play it a couple times and get to like a new area, I'd still find new versions of something or like slight tweaks on a different one. And they all had interesting attacks.
That's the thing. I didn't feel like there was any that really like blew me away from their like visual design, perhaps like that I really loved.
In that third area, there was one that was like a chariot. With wheels.
That one I didn't like.
A little bit like
Come on.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
is this the one that accidentally got back from the cutting room floor?
But you're totally right that all the enemies had interesting like differences. Like they kept you on your toes, and you had to learn their basics. And that's true
From
for
the
the bosses. And even after you beat the game, they twist those. So like it's, it's a 5 for me. It's a no-brainer. I'm really curious what we're gonna end up doing here because I know for you it's not a 5.
Oh no, it's a 5. It's 100% a 5.
It's a 5 for you?
Like I said, I can't. The only thing I'd be able to knock it for maybe is that it's a hard game and it's a roguelike. But like, I mean, it's a genre and it's a hard genre, but they make it as approachable as you can make it. So I said, I don't know what I would do differently.
Yeah, for a roguelike, this is as good as you could imagine for you.
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
100%.
Wow.
I mean, it has great art, it has great music, it has like,
even so,
it has voice acting. It has not lazy voice acting. I mean, I'm always knocking that, right? Like, hey, put in some voices, make these characters more interesting. They actually have character development in this game. In a roguelike. Like, it makes you kind of care and get to feel these. And there's a bunch of characters, too,
There's a lot, yeah.
Like, a surprising number of characters who have, like, different. You get a sense of each of them and, like, different aspects to them. And so, I mean, I'm really stretching for something to knock this thing down to a 4. I can't really find it.
This is
one. It has great controller support.
It's
I
true.
didn't play it. I played it with the controller. You did too?
Oh yeah, this is a controller game 100%. Yeah, I was playing on PC. You were playing on PC as well, but you were both playing a controller.
I was, but I wish I was. Okay, there's one thing I wish. I wish that it was on Xbox and PS5.
I'm sure it'll get there at some point.
I'm sure it will too. It just feels like it's kind of made for controller. Like it's so responsive and great that I think it's going to have a huge second wind if it really ever needs that, because it still seems like it's going pretty strong.
I mean, it's winning.
I think it's going to blow up when
I think you're right. Too. It's winning end of year awards, and it's weird because I feel like most games that are in early access for this long, like I as a habit don't pay attention to early access games too much because I kind of just want to. I'm patient, so I can wait for the things to come out. So
came out of nowhere for me.
I was just like I didn't pay much heed. I was like, oh, it's a super giant roguelike. I'm gonna play that. I'll just wait for it to get early access, and I cannot believe something this unique kind of like flew under the radar as long as it did for us.
I would be really interested to know for people who are playing it from the very beginning how much it evolved between initial offering and then the subsequent release. But yeah.
It's a
great game. 5.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you. I thought I was going to have to fight you like tooth and nail to move this to like a 4. I thought you were going to come in and say it's okay. It's just not my kind of game. But I appreciate that point of view. Cool. Well, that was I thought we were going to knock down, drag out a fight. I was preparing for this to be the final episode of Super Robinson Bros. Like this was going to tear us apart.
Really? But hey, you know me better than that.
5. I don't know who you are anymore. Turning on God mode.
Well, okay. You really want to know one thing? This isn't a thing for these guys, but team needs to get their controller mapping situation fixed. This thing's it's so busted.
Really?
The game is actually broken. I did try playing it on Mac first because I was so tickled that it existed, but you could not press right bumper, which was like one of the most important buttons because you brings you to the next room.
Oh yeah,
with the default Steam controller mapping, and then I had to go in there, and then it's just like, okay, I'm done with this.
I didn't have a problem at all.
Well, you didn't play it on a Mac.
Oh, I see what you're saying on the Mac mapping.
There were dozens of us trying.
Cool. Okay. Well, Nick, good conversation. Thank you for joining me.
And I'm glad we're doing this.
I tell you what, thanks to everyone in the Discord channel for making this a wonderful month plus as we played this game, even beyond the deadline. This game ruined my productivity, by the way. Completely ruined my productivity for a month. Well, stories untold.
No one listens to this podcast because if your bosses did, they probably would want to know about that.
Yep. Our stories untold comics are late. These comics are going to be late, and it's only because this game's so damn good.
That is true. Straight up, our comics have taken a dip, and it's because Nate's been playing way too much Hades.
Yep, pretty much.
But I would also say, more importantly than playing along with us, thank you to our patrons for selecting this game. I mean, this thing beat out some other really promising looking games. So thanks for selecting it for us. This was a real blast to play, and I might not have played it without you guys picking it. So thank you. And Nate, how would someone pick a game Like, for example, how our patrons pick
Yeah,
this one.
our patrons pick every game we play. So we go to, if you go to patreon.com/Super Robinson Bros, you can become a patron, pick what we play, get a bunch of behind the scenes content, other cool bonuses like early comics. And hey, it's free to join our Discord community. Come play along with us every month. Join the conversation or just laugh at our foibles. Again,
Like when you just said conversation.
Conversation.
Oh man,
It's an inside joke for the Discord community. I'm sure that's
yeah. So how would they join our Discord, Nate?
You go to srbcomic.com/Discord. Thanks, Nick.
Nailed it.
Nice
Awesome.
and nice.
Well, thanks everybody
yeah.
for listening. We really appreciate it. We're excited to do a bunch more comics and play a bunch more games here in the year 2021, the future.
Thank God.
And in the meantime, if you're sitting at home, whatever, get a little bit of time off of work, looking for something fun to do, go and rate and review us over on Apple Podcasts. Tell somebody about this podcast or our YouTube, whatever,
It really helps us.
All the games we played.
We don't advertise. This is all word of mouth. So, yeah, we really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Nick, thanks again. Everyone else, thanks for
listening.
watching. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See ya.